The 2026 Senate election in Michigan, specifically the Democratic nomination, has been in a lot of chaos for a while, particularly surrounding um, three candidates: Mallory McMorrow, Haley Stevens, and Abdul El Sayed. Um, Mallory McMorrow has dropped out, leaving just Haley Stevens and Abdul El Sayed. I've already made a video explaining the overview of the race, who these candidates are, what they stand for, and how their policies shape the race. But this video is going to be strictly on the data. We know, for those of you who don't want to do that, Haley Stevens, just by the endorsements, we can see um, Chuck Schumer, Debbie Stabenow, Gary Peters, Hillary Scholten, a lot of more establishment Democrats, and then Abdul El Sayed, uh, Ed Murkey, Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Lilia Mejia, Ian Omar, a lot of the more progressive, insurgent wing of the Democratic Party supporting El Sayed. And I think it's important to note that while organizations like AIPAC, and there's been a lot of outside money in this race, and even just the individual fundraising has been close between the two, not like there isn't an advantage to be said here. El Sayed leads by 11 now, and has led the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 polls. 8. Look, and not just by like small bits, by a sizable, comfortable amount here. Haley Stevens has not led a poll since July 11th. That poll supported Stevens. So really, the last poll that she was leading was July 8th, and even then it was by a single percentage point, and then El Sayed was leading even back until the start of May. So really, there isn't any case for Haley Stevens winning the polls. Now, I think it is important that just some of these numbers are disregarded. A 2-point difference is well within the margin of error for this amount of polls, and especially specifically this Glengarriff group outside or way outlier poll that has Mike Rogers beating Al Sayed by 10, which is not happening in Michigan in 2026 with a generic ballot this Democratic. I think we're far enough into the midterms to understand that Michigan, a state that has a tied partisan lean, when the generic ballot average is around D+6, Emerson College is coming out with things at around D+11, that whoever wins this Democratic nomination is going to beat Mike Rogers. Like, even right now, it's 66% chance, and that's without a lot of the data. There's going to be a lot of undecideds that eventually choose. Right now, Mike Rogers seems to be punching above his weight here. Seems to be. And he was leading for a bit. But the earliest of polls, and believe it or not, we're in August, that's still pretty early. You really only seem to know what's happening in October. And there's a lot of races to back that up. But I don't necessarily think that Mike Rogers is a super strong candidate. Like, I don't think he's a bad candidate, but he's a pretty generic Trump Republican, at least from my own knowledge. So it's not like that Democrats need to nominate a more quote-unquote electable candidate, like has been argued before. Maybe, like before in a state like Texas, maybe you want James Talrico and not Jasmine Crockett because that is a much, much redder state than Michigan is. But Michigan has a Democratic governor. They have a split legislature. Even after 2024, I don't think that we should be worrying over electability in a year so beneficial to Democrats. Now, going into my primary quote-unquote prediction. It's more of a compiled analysis. It's really not based in any actual modeling data other than compiling a bunch of numbers to just get a race overview, more so, just based on some of these fundraising fundamentals, polls, prediction markets as well. And we can see that just based on this, Abdul El Sayed has an 87% chance. Now, you might be like, whoa, that seems really high for only leading by like 13 points in a primaries that have been very volatile. Well, that 87% chance isn't actually that high compared to what some other prediction markets are putting it at. If we take a look at Kalshi right here, Abdul El Sayed is at a 97% chance. You were looking at this graph right. A 97% chance. And, well, I don't think that he has a 97% chance at winning. It is worth noting that sometimes these prediction markets in these very high-profile primaries, specifically like this year in high-profile primaries like this, tend to have been very bullish and most-ish of the time correct. If you remember Texas, they had James Talrico at a 90-something% on election day when it was still showing it was competitive, and he won. Now, he didn't win by a huge amount, but he won. So, prediction markets are better at showing the momentum of what people think, where people think the momentum is. And right now, it is absolutely entirely undeniable that people believe that the momentum is with El Sayed and not Stevens. And I also wanted to take a look at a few crosstabs I have here from the Emerson College poll. Emerson College is widely one of, if not the most accurate pollster. I'm not going to say it's the most accurate pollster because there really is no one most accurate pollster, but it's one of the very top reputable pollsters here, especially for primaries. We can see that within race, El Sayed is actually, it's pretty clear split between them. There's really nothing that's entirely competitive. El Sayed is dominating with white and Hispanic Democrats and independents. Keep in mind, Michigan is an open primary, and Stevens is dominating with black, Asian American, Pacific Islander, and other voters. That is interesting, and keep in mind with all this, there really isn't enough data, demographic data available, not behind paywalls or whatever, so take this with a grain of salt. It's from a single poll. As good as it may be, it's a single poll. Now, age right here, 18 to 29, pretty much 18 years old to 49 years old, absolutely loving El Sayed. And then once you get into 50, 60, 70, it's more going for Stevens. And more college-educated voters are also voting for El Sayed by a larger margin. Nothing surprising with this wave of progressive Democrats overtaking the establishment within primaries and really sending a clear message that what voters want and what they have wanted for at least a decade, if not longer, is not moderation. They want a fighter who will actually represent their interests, not somebody who will just do whatever it takes to win and really have no further vision beyond beating the other party. This goes on both sides. This is how Donald Trump was elected. This was how Zoran Mamdani was elected. With all being said, some people say the best thing you can do with polls is just throw them in an aggregate. Well, not an aggregate, but there's a lot of nerdy stuff, but pretty much an average, a complex average. And the fact of the matter is that El Sayed currently leads 50+1 polling average by 13 points, and if you saw on the Wikipedia aggregate of certain averages by around 11. So keep in mind, James Talrico led by around 2 points when he won. Not to try to compare Michigan to Texas, these are just two high-profile Democratic Senate primaries, but just saying that 13 points is a lot, even for a primary. And I think right around an 80% chance, 87% chance. That's about right for El Sayed to come out with a victory right here, and for Haley Stevens to have just a 13% chance of overcoming this margin right here. And we can see here, some polls go even further. El Sayed plus 18, plus 17, plus 16. So it's really not looking good for the establishment in Michigan. And of course, this also means that a lot of more local races in Michigan, where progressives are running, maybe like very like state house, state senate, even like mayoral or city council seats, those primaries, those can also will also have a much better time um, electing more progressive outsider Democrats to those seats. That's going to be all from me for now, and probably my final video before the election actually happens. So for right now, El Sayed leads by 11, by 13, by around 10 points in the double digits, and it looks like Haley Stevens might have a very rough Tuesday night.